My name is Lai Kwok Seng Richard. I'm here this afternoon to walk you through Module 5 of the CMFAS module. This module, as you know, refers to the rules and regulations governing the financial advisory services in Singapore. All right. Now, I'm sure that you have the text with you. All right. And without much further ado, let us begin. And I refer you to chapter 1 of the text. Now, chapter 1 refers to the regulatory bodies and associations governing the financial advisory services in Singapore. Right? Now, the first item at paragraph 2 of your text refers to the Monetary Authority of Singapore, the MAS. Many of you will know the MAS is the regulatory body insofar as finance, banking and finance are concerned, right? It was formed in 1971. The MAS was formed in 1971, 1st January 1971, after Parliament passed the Monetary Authority of Singapore Act in 1970. All right, now this particular act, the MAS Act that was passed, regulate all elements of monetary, banking, and financial aspects of Singapore. All right, with the purpose of centralizing all the various monetary functions associated with the central bank, performed by several government departments and agencies under one single control. In other words, the MAS is in effect the central bank of Singapore. All right, now the rules of the MAS has been expanding since its formation in 1971. And you look at paragraph 2.2, you will see the changes that evolved over time since the formation of the MAS in 1971. All right, it has also taken over the Board of Commissioners of Currencies, all right, which was fully integrated with the MAS. So the MAS also became the currency issuing board, the currency issuing authority in Singapore. All right, after 2002, after 1st October 2002. The mission of the MAS is set up at 2.3, and that is to sustain non-inflationary economic growth and promote a sound and progressive financial services sector in Singapore. And the primary objectives of the MAS are also set out at 2.4, all right, under A to D. All right, in particular, I refer you to D, which is to develop Singapore as an international financial center. All right, I'm sure you agree with me that MAS has done and will be doing a good job in this regard in achieving the objectives as set out at 2.4. Now, as the central bank and the as a central bank and as the regulator of financial services industry in Singapore, the MAS has also issued, all right, and administered several instruments, all right. And in terms of instruments, you look at A1 of your text. The title under A1 is Acts. Now, here we are looking at Acts of Parliament. All right, Parliament is the institution that makes law. All right, it's the legislation body of the government. All right, that is the legislative organ of the Constitution of Singapore. It legislates law. It passes law. All right, look at 2.6, A1 2.6. What are Acts of Parliament? Acts of Parliament sometimes are known as statutes, statute law, all right? And the statute law or Acts of Parliament are passed by Parliament itself. And you can look at some of the examples under 2.6, where the MAS is the administering body. And the acts you will look at the acts stated therein, they relate mainly to banking and financial matters in Singapore. Right? Just look at 2.6, the first bullet point, the Banking Act. Now that is administered by the MAS. Right? Following there, you can see Business Trust Act and all the way down to the Trust Companies Act. Now in particular, I want you to pay attention to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the sixth bullet point, the Financial Advisors Act. Now this particular act is relevant to you as a financial advisor representative or to the financial advisor company itself. So this particular act, the Financial Advisors Act, the FAA, is administered by the MAS. Now, apart from statute law, apart from legislation, which is an act of parliament, you have at A2 what we call subsidiary legislations. Now, a subsidiary legislation is a piece of legislation that adds more details. It adds more meat, as it were, more content, as it were, in order to explain the act itself, the statute itself. Insofar as an act of parliament is concerned, it is written in some legal language that ordinary people, non-lawyers, may find it difficult to understand. And that is why even if there is an act of parliament, all right, the provisions under that particular act may be subject to interpretation and construction by the courts. And there are certain rules of interpretation and construction of the statutes. If there's any doubt as to what the words in the statute or the words in the Act of Parliament is to mean, all right? So end of the day it is a very difficult piece of writing for lay people to understand. Hence, they normally have another piece of legislation called a subsidiary legislation. Now, a subsidiary piece of legislation spells out in greater detail, all right? It sets out in greater detail what are the requirements, right, that the specified institutions or the specified persons or individuals are to comply with. Now, I use the word comply with. You have to comply. You have to adhere to an Act of Parliament, which is statute law, and subsidiary legislation. Now, if you look at A2, the definition set out therein at A2 includes regulations, orders, declarations, and notifications. Right? That the regulations, orders, declarations, and notifications all constituted subsidiary legislation. Right? Now, this subsidiary legislation has the force of law. In other words, it has legal effect, and you must comply with it. All right? Insofar as we are concerned here regarding your industry or your practices, you need to comply with the Financial Advisors Act. You need to comply with the provisions of the Financial Advisors regulations. So let me repeat that. The FAA and the FAR are key pieces of legislation that you must comply with. All right, failing which, they will throw the book at you. MAS will throw the book at you and say, look, you failed to comply, and therefore penalties will attach. Now, penalties for breaches of the FAA or the FAR would include fine or imprisonment term or both. So therefore, it's very, very important for you to take note of what is in the Act and more importantly, what's in the regulations. All right? Now, if you look at A3, now the other piece of instrument, the other type of instrument that you need to be concerned with are I must also at B set out the Code of Ethics and Standards of Professional Conduct. All right, and B1, that is the Code of Ethics that is spelled out for you. Okay, and in particular, you look at 4.6 there. The Standards of Professional Conduct cover 4 main areas under IMAS. All right, if you're a member of IMAS, you will need to look at this. All right, if you're an investment manager, if you're doing business conduct for investment, client relations and investment conduct itself, all right, you have to look at these areas because the code of ethics under IMAS cover these four main areas. All right, so that is in terms of the Investment Management Association of Singapore. As a non-profit, all right, as a body, as an association, they help to promote professionalism in this investment industry. Now, following IMAS, you have at paragraph 5, all right, paragraph 5, the Life Insurance Association of Singapore, the LIA. Now, this association, again, you can see at 5.1. 5.1 is they established in 1962. All right, it is again a non-profit trade body for insurance product providers and life reinsurance providers in Singapore. All right, and it is licensed by the Monetary Authority of Singapore. Now, the vision and the mission of the LIA are set out at paragraph 5A. All right. And it clearly states that, like IMAS, it will promote, all right, it will develop a progressive insurance industry in Singapore by collectively enhancing consumer understanding. All right, so they do have seminars and things like that in order to inform consumers in regard to insurance and reinsurance in Singapore. Promoting industry best practices, and through the association foster a spirit of collaboration and mutual respect with the government and other business leaders and business leaders. Okay. Now, the LIA has also, as you will know later on in this program, that they also have a statement for life insurers in relation to issues like insurable interest and the form. The fact-find form and so forth. So, like other bodies or associations, LIA plays an important part, all right, in promoting the insurance industry in Singapore, all right. And if you look at 5.3A1, those are the values underpinning LIA and its members, all right. And you can see for yourself, they are quite similar to some of the other associations. Which actually follow the approach taken by the MAS, all right, in terms of unified, professional, ethical, fair, open and honest, and proactive. And all this actually can also be found in a guideline later on, which I will go through with you in terms of the fair dealing outcomes, the 5 fair dealing outcomes. All right, are expected of financial advisory companies and practitioners. Now, at paragraph 6 of this text, you will see the Association of Banks in Singapore, ABS. Now, the ABS has been formed since, the ABS was formed in 1973. All right, and over many years, again, they have established standards of good practice. All right, they help to promote and represent the interests of the banking community in Singapore. All right, so many banks, including foreign banks, are either members or associate members with the ABS, Association of Banks in Singapore. And ABS plays a very primary role, very important role in promoting banking and finance in Singapore and abroad. All right. Now, the next body or the next association that we require to have some understanding of is the Association of Financial Advisors Singapore, the AFAS. Now, later on in the course, in this program, we will go into the details of the Financial Advisors Act, which was actually set into operation on 1st October 2002. All right, this is the Financial Advisors Act. All right, and you look at paragraph 7.1. The Association of Financial Advisors was formed in 2001, all right, in anticipation of the passing of the Financial Advisors Act by Parliament. All right, and again, it's a trade association representing financial advisors in Singapore. All right, and again, similar to the other professional organizations and bodies, all right, they again want to promote financial advisory services in Singapore. So therefore, financial advisor corporations, whether they are licensed or whether they are exempt financial advisor corporations, we will look at that later on. They can be members of this association, and of course, as before, like the LIA and the IMAS, what they do is they will provide a forum or a platform in order to develop best practices, opinions, recommendations, educational programs, in order to develop the financial advisory services businesses under the Financial Advisors Act. All right, for the benefit of the members themselves, the representative, and also for the customers, okay, whether in Singapore or elsewhere. All right, so those are the associations that we require you to have some understanding of. All right, now to conclude chapter 1, I would just want to highlight to you some of the key things that you need to look at. So if you look at the board, what do we have in terms of this particular thing is, first of all, we got to look at the MAS. All right, that's number 1. Okay, number 2, you look at what we call the Acts of Parliament. All right, what we call statutes. All right. Then we look at, in particular, this one, as far as we are concerned here, for this particular module 5, in terms of the Act, we are more concerned with the Financial Advisors Act, okay? Or they call it the FAA, all right, Financial Advisors Act. Then after that, we look at what we call the subsidiary legislation. All right? And insofar as we are concerned under Module 5, we are looking at the Financial Advisors Regulation. All right? So these are the 2 key instruments to look at. All right? Then number 4, of course, are the notices, which we are very concerned about. And also, not so much of directives, but they are also important in terms of having legal force. All right, all these have legal force. All right, they have legal force. All right, so FAA, FAR notices are crucial. You must understand it. All right. Then number 5, of course, we have got the FAA, what we call the FAA guidelines. All right. Now, over the course of this program, we will look at notices a lot. We will look at guidelines a lot. All right. You must understand and be familiar. You must understand the provisions under notices, all right, and the guidelines. These are quite crucial. All right. So most of our work here will be directed at notices and guidelines as we go along. All right. Then in chapter 1 itself, apart from all this, we also take a look at SGX. All right. All right, SGX as a body, as a regulator, all right? So SGX is also an important authority. Then after that, we look at associations, all right? All right, and in particular, we are looking at IMAS, all right? We are looking at LIA, all right? We are looking at, what's the other one now? The Financial Advisors Association. All right, and lastly, we also look at ABS, the Association of Banks. So 1, 2, 3, 4. As bodies, associations that promote the various sectors under the banking and financial sectors in Singapore. Now, ABS is mainly banking and finance, right? LIA is mainly life insurance, reinsurance, and then the IMAS is investment, and this govern the financial advisory industry under the FA itself. This was formed, this association itself was formed to promote financial advisory services in Singapore under the Financial Advisors Act. All right, so if you're a financial advisor representative or financial advisor corporation, then probably you want to join this association. All right, it gives you a lot of there's some membership privileges, to put it that way, right? To promote Singapore as a center for financial advisory services, right? under the designated products under the Financial Advisors Act. All right, so in summary, that is chapter 1. Thank you. Okay, here's Richard Lai again. Welcome, Richard Lai again. Welcome, Richard Lai again. Welcome.